Today is all about the Boston Bruins, and very fitting considering the news of today as well. Always a pleasure to be joined by Ty Anderson from 98.5 The Sports Hub. And Ty, Don Sweeney getting a 2-year extension that's going to bring him through 2027, 2028. Is this maybe a sign, giving Sweeney this stability? Is it a sign that the Bruins are going to be maybe more methodical with how they build this thing out and aren't looking for a quick switch here?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that the job never really seemed to be in jeopardy. I think if you were paying really close attention, like you thought maybe they could make a change, but it didn't feel like it would ever come in the front office. The decisions that Don Sweeney was allowed to make at the trade deadline, not just trading pending free agents, but trading guys that were under contract and had some pretty decent kind of contracts, I'd say, in Brandon Carlo and Charlie Coyle. Like that kind of told you that he was going to be the decision maker here in Boston. And sure enough, it plays out that way. I think for the Bruins, the most stable part of this is that you're not telling him, hey, rebuild the roster, make it good, and also you're playing for your job, so to speak. And so maybe they feel like they can get a better scope of their front office, a better direction, a better long-term, sustainability model, let's just say, versus 1 year, make the playoffs or you're fired.
Ty, I stopped a long time ago trying to figure out or understand the psyche of massholes, but if you could help me, I don't really understand the blowback on social media. Like, look at this resume from, if you could throw that up again, the board of Don Sweeney's tenure so far. Look at that record: 8 playoff appearances, 1 Stanley Cup final. I mean, this is a run of success over 10 years that like 28 franchises in the league would absolutely kill to have. Why is it that Bruins fans want to fire Don Sweeney into the sun?
I think it probably comes back to how it started off on the worst possible foot for him. 2015, we all know he has the back-to-back first-round picks. The Bruins get 1 NHL player out of that. That player is now in Vancouver. He also traded a fan favorite in Milan Lucic. So first month on the job, the fans already want his head, right? And it didn't get any better when those picks did not play out the way that they should have or you wanted them to. And then you see Kyle Connor in Winnipeg. You see Thomas Chabot in Ottawa, Matthew Barzal in New York. Like you see all those guys popping off, and you're watching Zach Senyshyn and Jake Saboril in the minors still, 4 years into their careers. And so that didn't help. So I'm with you that like I have always found it to be too extreme. I think he's a GM who, like pretty much any GM, has things he does well and things he does poorly. I think one thing that he's done really well is make trades to either extend the window or maximize value. Free agency is a different kind of game, as we know, but I just think that they're so hyper-focused on the start, right? And it has been better. The drafting, their drafting has been pretty poor, right? At the same time, they were drafting and trading picks to try to extend a window for a long time. And so I am not as down on Don Sweeney as a lot of the Bruins fans are. And it makes me a Sweeney apologist, I guess, to some people. But, I think you look at the resume, it's like, okay, you didn't get enough with Bergeron, Krejci, that core. But now he's being given the chance, right or wrong, to do 2015 all over again. You look at their draft picks, you look at their arsenal of what they have right now, what they can trade, what they can move. Like, he's getting a chance to rebuild the foundation, and it's on him to sink or swim now. But to go to your original point, it's the 2015. That's what it is. People cannot get over that, and they won't get over it. And, he's going to wear that forever. That's his scarlet letter here in Boston.
Get over it. Look, no GM is perfect.
I've said this.
I don't like it.
We have to get over it at a certain point.
In pro sports, everyone makes mistakes. Like, no one has a strong track record. Honestly, I would focus more on his inability to evaluate talent on the back end in a bunch of signings over the years that has been way more detrimental to the Bruins than the 2015 draft. But that being said, the other part of this summer, Tyler, is really trying to figure out, and I called you Tyler, I don't know why, but Ty,
it's all right.
would be to get this coaching hire right. What are you hearing? What's the latest on the Bruins coaching search?
Yeah, it really does feel like they got to nail that, right? Because if you don't, now this is another part of the issue with fans, is that you're going to fire another head coach. Okay, well, when does accountability come for the front office, right? Like, that's kind of been another thing that's frustrated Bruins fans, and didn't help when you see, Jim Montgomery bring the Blues back to life. Best team out of the Four Nations break. They pushed the Winnipeg Jets to a Game 7. That's not a great look. Bruce Cassidy obviously wins a cup his first year out of Boston. Not a great look for the front office. And so I think, I keep saying sustainability, but I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is that you got to get this hire right. It's got to be somebody who can grow with your team and to grow, let your top stars, buy in, so to speak. And this is where I think it's interesting, right? Like Joe Sacco was an interim head coach. He coached two different versions of the Boston Bruins, essentially, the pre-deadline and the post-deadline Bruins. But he does have backers in that room. He does have players that really like him and really respect him. I think Jay Leach is another guy who they like him. They respect him. They brought him back for a reason. They never wanted to lose him to Seattle all those years ago. They bring him back. I don't think they want to lose him either. And so is that a guy that you promote? They're also talking to some guys that are assistants that are currently, still coaching right now in the NHL. I'd be curious about a guy like Misha Donskov, if only because he was on Team Canada. He was the only assistant coach in the NHL that was on Team Canada's staff, I believe, at the Four Nations. And so Don Sweeney got to work with him, got to see him up close and personal. So we'll see what happens there as well. But, I know Marco Sturm's another name, too, that's been brought up. It feels like that's a guy that, he does have connection to the Bruins. Chara now has more voice in the Bruins room. Chara played with Sturm for about, 5 years in Boston. He has seen what Sturm has done at the international level and obviously with the LA Kings and their organization to a different degree. But it does feel like they got to make a hire that you project to be here for about 5 years, right? Like, we know the shelf life is weird and guys get fired 2 to 3 years now. But if you're the Bruins, you want to make a hire that you envision being here for at least 5 years, I think.
And after he gets the coaching hire done, I'm looking at their Puckpedia page right now, and it's like, yes, they have some cap space, but it's 1, 2, 3, 5 forwards under contract. I know there's a handful of RFAs in there as well, but you also have to fill out this roster. What kind of approach do you think this front office takes to putting players on this team for next season?
They absolutely desperately need more scoring. I think that's their biggest issue, is that they have David Pastrnak, and then David Pastrnak was able to help Morgan Geekie get a 30-goal season, but what do you have beyond that? That's the real question for this team long-term. Fabian Lysell, we're going to see if he can pop off in 2025. I mean, he had a good finish to his year, but he's a polarizing prospect depending on who you talk to. They just need more offensive talent. I think they are so devoid of that. And you look at sort of with the way the league shook out this year, teams that were in the top half of the league in scoring made the playoffs. With the exception of Buffalo and Columbus, I think every team that was in the top half of the league in scoring made the postseason. You need more scoring. And so I think they're going to go after some guys. Brock Besser, I think, could be a guy for them. He trains in the offseason with Casey Middlestad. I don't think the Bruins want to spend $13 million on Mitch Marner. So if you can spend $8 million on that next tier of winger, I think they would do that. And so I wonder about a guy like Brock Besser, but I think scoring is their biggest need. They never replaced Jake DeBrusk, and assuming Marchand isn't back next year, which who knows what happens there, you need more scoring. You can't just rely on your prospects and these guys you picked up at the deadline to suddenly become 25, 30 goal scorers. You need more talent there.
Ty, always a pleasure chatting with you. You can find his work, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Thanks for popping on.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.